Hello, Eastern Ace friends. We are back with another episode of Eastern Ace Conversations with Phil and Whit. We are really excited for this conversation today on vulnerability and identity disclosure at work. As you know, Eastern Ace, we really want to foster an environment of inclusivity and support for all our different identities. So I'm really excited for this conversation today. Just kind of going along with that topic, if you can see, Eastern Ace is launching affinity groups. Shout out to Dr. Gerald Tang, who is the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. So please visit the Eastern Ace website, go to membership, and you'll see all the various affinity groups that will be affiliated with Eastern Ace. I'm very excited to be a member of the Black and African American affinity group as we launch into the new year, and really fosters many communities within our great association to allow people to share, support each other, and the diverse issues that we bring to career development and employer relations. Additionally, we will be hosting the conference next summer in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Yes, if you notice that it is the first day is on Juneteenth, we will be looking to celebrate and elevate those that identify with the Black diaspora during this conference because the first day will be taking place on Juneteenth. And then lastly, we are so excited. You can see our guests today, but we do still have an amazing lineup of future guests coming up for our future episodes of Eastern Ace Conversations with Phil and Whit. And so without further ado, I'm trying. There you go. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on my co-host. There it is.
Hey, everybody. I'm sitting here like, put me in, coach. You doing that whole intro by yourself. But hello, everyone. So excited to be back. And it's been a while. I know you missed my lovely face, but we have an exciting episode for you all today. So what I'm going to ask is, Phil, if you can put our guests on screen. Hello, hello, hello. Um, so I'm not gonna, take up all the time and try and do these long intros. I'm gonna ask if you both can introduce yourselves, including your current roles, your respective pathways in the field of higher education, and any salient identities you hold that you want to like share with us today that can help frame this conversation.
Sure. Samara, go for it.
Me first. Okay. Hi, Samara Reynolds. I am Executive Director of VCU Career Services and an Eastern ACE member as well. I've been at VCU for about 5 years now, crossed over that 5-year threshold, which has been awesome. My career path has been in career services all the way through. I found this career path as an undergraduate and really have stuck with it throughout, but have been a lot of different places. So I've done this work in Virginia, North Carolina, Washington State, and then am now back in Virginia, which is wonderful. My pronouns are she and her. And as far as salient identities for today, I identify as a cisgender female. I am a parent. I am a spouse. I am Jewish, and I'm queer. Maggie?
And I'm Maggie Tolan. I'm the Senior Associate Vice President of Student Success at VCU. And, identities, I laugh, like, depends on the day. But I've been in higher ed for almost 30-something years. And my path has been one of go this way, bump into a wall, maybe that way, bump into a wall. And really, career services has been many of those walls of pivot and get into more of the career realm. So overall, I've been in career services, a lot of academic affairs, student success, in colleges, out of colleges, centralized, not centralized. I've worked at the largest institution in the United States, which is Arizona State, went to Georgia State, grew up in Missouri, worked in Vermont. So my path has been quite a bit all over, and many different institutions that, have had very different perspectives on diversity and inclusion. So I look forward to adding that. But identity-wise, yeah, I'm a mom first and foremost. Proud mom of 2 sons. I definitely would identify as a partner / wife. I've been married 21 years with my wife, and have been out for probably most of my life post I would say 1990. So whatever many years that is. And that works.
I love it. I love that we had that conversation and you started off sharing a lot of your identities. And I always joke myself when people say, "What do you do?" I say I'm a dad first, and then that throws them off. And then it's, "Oh yeah, and I work in higher ed." So like those leading identities, right? Those and Maggie, I really liked how you shared that was your leading identities, not necessarily your work, right? You bring yourself to work, but you have other roles in your life that are important. Kind of pivoting, Samara, you lead a really diverse team at VCU Career Services. Shout out to Monique Sample and Jeanette Hickle. Those are people I know. I know you have so many other staff members that we've met throughout the state, but your team really does dive in and talk about the intersection identities, not only for U.S. staff, but for your students, as well as you have those conversations with your employers that are trying to recruit at VCU. And so why is it important, within career services to have these conversations with these different stakeholders, not only for your students, but for your staff and for external stakeholders that are trying to recruit?
Absolutely. So yeah, for me, part of coming to VCU and choosing this is a place that I wanted to build my career is because of the diversity of the campus and the way that they approach it. I remember in my interviews with the team, I brought up some DEI related topics. This is back in 2018, just to see how they would respond. And they were very receptive, very interested. And really our journey has only grown from there, especially as we got into 2020 and all of the big conversations that brought to our field and to our lives. It has only become clearer and clearer that career is a piece of people's lives, but it is not the only piece of their life, just like you mentioned earlier. And career is impacted by our identities, not only the ones that we choose to bring into the work that we do, but those that we hold that may be impacted by how a work environment is or is not, how an organization does or doesn't support. And so we know that to be true for ourselves as individuals, but we also know that is true for students. And students are looking for organizations that honor their different identities, that create space for them, that have mentorship and paths for leadership and growth. And that it's not just a tagline or something on the website, but it actually is a living and breathing value for that organization. So, for us, we really do see it as the student piece. How can we advocate for employers? Because as we know in career services, there are a lot of employers that say we want diverse talent. We want to recruit diverse talent. And that's wonderful. And what are those employers doing to support that diverse talent, whatever that means to them when they get to that organization? Are they treating it as a checkbox? Are they treating it as something that really is a leadership development and wanting to bring representation into their organization, including at the leadership levels? So we have events that are specific to diversity, like our diversity career and internship fair or our diversity networking in action. And we ask employers hard questions as they want to participate in those events, to tell us a little bit more about their infrastructure, about their values, about their mission statement, et cetera. But I think at the end of the day, it really has struck home for staff as well, as we aim to recruit and retain talented staff of our own that feel like they can bring their true authentic self to work every day. And that's an ongoing process. It's not yep, we did it, we're done. It is ever evolving. And so for us, small examples of what we do for students include our Suit Yourself closet, which has a major gender affirmation component to it. We do special programming with our student organizations related to Dress to Express, so that they can really see how they can feel most confident in professional settings and different types of clothing. We have our Prime program, which is specific to students of underrepresented identities in the healthcare fields or interested in the healthcare fields, of creating community and peer mentorship and space for that. And I mentioned some of our other, career fairs and events as well. But it also comes down to data. Maggie has always led us to say, who is not engaging with your services? It's wonderful if you're counting, numbers here, numbers there, but like, where are there gaps in engagement or in services or in satisfaction? How can we actively address that? And so we do that across a variety of identity markers throughout the year. But truly, we want to be a place that operates at the intersection of career and identity, but also helps students to find their best fit for their self as a whole person.
And real quick, I just want to ask a follow-up question, and maybe kind of the follow-up question is for Maggie. You shared that you worked at many institutions, and as a senior leader, maybe you're having these conversations at a different scope than Samara. So can you speak to that too, as you know, the importance of senior leadership supporting those career centers that are trying to foster these programs, and how did you make your determination? What was some important factors for you when you came to VCU in that similar vein to Samara?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we are a reflection of our students, and we should be, right? So the folks that are crossing our door are the ones that we should be presenting back in terms of identities and connections. And, you know, not everyone necessarily needs a mentor that has the exact same qualities, but I think the thing that we as leaders are always trying to find good leaders like Samara is, you know, can we trust? Can we see that they're open-minded, that they are open to conversation? They're not confrontive if brought into question about, you know, can we possibly look at this policy or this one? Is somebody that will listen, somebody that will, you know, bring people to a table and have conversation. So I think, you know, diversity is changing day by day, and AI, what is coming with that, you know, in terms of some of the work that we do and what it's going to open up as to our minds of how we also have to think. So, you know, from a leadership perspective, we know we're as strong as the folks that we are with a team, who are on our team. And I think that's when you interview people for genuineness. You interview people who have lived some experiences themselves, that have gone through some battles, folks that, again, have had to question some of their why and how, and some of the way we speak, what we read, where we take in our information, all of those things you glean through interviews, right? To start to understand the foundation of candidates. But you know, speaking to the employers, you know, I've had once in my journey, I kind of outlined some institutions. I mean, there was one institution that all of my colleagues, that it was a very white community, and they had a lot of, quote, recruitment for candidates from diverse, particularly African American, that came in as employees and literally left a year later. And they just couldn't catch the why was this happening. And if they had just talked to the staff that were leaving, they would have known that some of these candidates couldn't get their hair done. I mean, it came down to the basic necessities of, there was not a service in town to support me as an individual. So it's much more even just beyond what we do in our own space. It's about the communities and looking outside of our realm of our institutions. So.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right. So I absolutely love this question that I'm about to ask, because personally, as a gender fluid, pansexual individual that has yet to very publicly come out. So side note, shout out to Eastern ACE for giving me the space and the confidence to be myself genuinely. Shout out to Tibby and you, Phil, for helping me find my voice in this space. Anyways, so I know that I've had varying experiences in the workplace in terms of acceptance, comfortability, or even the process of just coming out, right? And very often, those with less visible identity markers, such as those within the LGBTQIA+ community, or those with disabilities, have to go through the process of identity disclosure or coming out, you know, time and time again throughout their life, including in professional spaces. So what has your experience been with being out at work? And the second part of that question is, what has gone well and what has been challenging along the way?
You go first on this one, Maggie.
We were laughing, prepping for this. I'm like, it's been so many years. Like, I think that's the difference too of someone like me that has had my fight back 20, 30 years ago, to even think about talking. You just didn't do it back in the day. And, you know, all of the battles that we did, my dissertation was about LGBTQ, like, to fight to even be allowed to do that as a dissertation. I look now and I laugh with my sons. I'm like, you know, it's so easy these days. And then I meet people and they're like, no, Maggie, it's not. It's just different, right? The path. You know, for me, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't a thing. It's something that you kind of met people, and I don't say in a back room, but it was like, go to the softball fields. You'll find all the gay women at the softball fields in Arizona. But it was meeting people that still led great lives. And so you're like, okay, this is okay. I'm going to be okay. And then it kind of was from the profession side, I think I got spoiled. It's higher ed, and it was ACPA, and it used to be, I don't know what it is now, but it was gay CPA back in my day, because everybody in housing seemed like they were gay, or that was the safe space. So then you'd go to ACPA every year and you're like, my people. So there were plenty of pockets of validation that, your identity was valuable. It was contributing to our field of higher education. But one of the prep question is thinking through, like, how has it been different from place to place? I vividly remember it was about my third school after coming out and working in computer science. And I went to the holiday party and we sat at our little round tables, and my partner at the time was sitting to my left. And there was one chair left. And of course, the department chair sat down next to my partner. And when he sat down, he leans over my partner and says, "Where's your husband?" Because I had been talking about, I had a partner. And anyway, like, that moment is, how do you even have a conversation at a Christmas holiday party and come out or not? And like, there was a whole debrief of what that felt like. And, kind of from here on out, I obviously, to me, needed to talk differently with people that I worked for, because I didn't ever want to have that experience for me or for my partner sitting next to me. So I think that was probably my big pivot point of, I am who I am. And I kind of joke, as I've moved in career service jobs, I'm talking to students about how do they use their identity in their resumes and interviewing. And I was like, I'm in the opinion, put everything in there that you would want to be a flag, that if they are not accepting of it, then I won't work there. If I don't put it in there, I end up working for someone that now I'm like, oh, wow, they're so homophobic. So that's where I also run in a world now that I always assume everyone's gay, honestly. And I use old terms, so apologies in that regard, but I just assume everybody is. And you have to kind of show me that you're not. And that language has always been easier for me, to tell me about your family, tell me about your partners, and language that makes no assumptions. And I know we've come so far as a society of kind of having pronouns and things. It's so great to see. And I say to our younger LGBTQ, you're welcome. Half of the battles, were through people like us trying to help educate leaders and community members and employers and everyone else of, we're people, but you have to embrace all of who we are, not just parts of who we are. So there's the old lady answer.
That's a good answer, Maggie. It's a good answer. And, Maggie has been part of my journey, which has been more recent, kind of as Whit was mentioning as well. I am both newer to the community myself. It's been a personal journey over the past couple of years to be like, this is who I am. I now have understanding of that. And as I've gone through the personal journey, it's like, there's professional implications for this, because to the earlier point, representation is important. Creating space for other staff members who may already identify or consider coming out in their identities. It is important to see that leadership perhaps shares those identities. And so for me, my process has been gradual over the past couple of years. First sharing with colleagues that already were out and queer in my professional life, whether it be on my current campus or in like the NACE affinity group for LGBTQ plus and allies, starting to get comfortable talking with folks who maybe had that lived experience. Then I honestly found it most comfortable to share with brand new staff members that I was meeting. So I do like a meet and greet with anybody new who joins our team. I'm like, here's a little bit about me, some background info, some values, some vision, etc. And so I was putting straight into that conversation. Hi, I identify as queer and bisexual. They were like, cool, that sounds great. So they're meeting me in that way. Which honestly, it made the next piece and the hardest was like people who had already known me before and didn't know that about me, because I'm very femme presenting and I'm married to a man. So those two things I think lead to a lot of assumptions for folks about who I am or what my life is like. And so I've had moments with some members of my current staff, I'm like, I need to talk to you about something. I want to share this piece of who I am. And they've been super supportive. And then in other spaces, it's been, okay, how can I just engage in some of the queer spaces on campus? How can I get involved and be visible in certain ways that I feel comfortable with? But again, everybody's experience is going to be different. So I think for me, I do a lot of signaling, I guess. I have like little stickers up in my office, or we'll kind of put things in spaces so that perhaps people won't make assumptions that I'm not part of that community. And I think it's something that I'm becoming more and more comfortable with every passing year of talking about in open spaces. So Whit, I want to acknowledge if that's something that feels new for you to talk about in some of these professional spaces, that you're very brave to do so, and we're here to support you as you do.
I absolutely love that. And then, Whitney has a follow-up. Go ahead, please ask that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Really quick, because that both your responses were like really great, right? And it just reminded me of a lot of things that I've been through, where you either get misgendered, or there's the assumption like, oh, so I thought you were a guy on the phone because your voice is so deep. Are you a lesbian? Like I get really weird questions like that, and it makes me very uncomfortable. So how do you navigate like correcting someone that makes an assumption about you, about your identity, about your gender or sexuality? Like, how do you navigate that?
And it's happened for me over years. I told you I didn't do anything back then because I was a new professional. I think that's maybe also bringing to the table is I'm older. I've been in this. I know what I can and can't do. I have a resume that's longer that shows what I can do. So I was younger. I was building that, and I was fearful that I was always, if I bucked the system or said to a chair of a department that you just misspoke and you need to be more inclusive and understanding of who works for you, I felt like I was going to lose my job back then. Now, again, it was also different times, but as I've aged, I've had to lean always on the professional to value who I was a little bit. And now that I've, quote, arrived, now I'm like, this is what you get. This is who you are. This is who I am. And you're hiring me on what I've done, but also what I bring to the table as peers. I know I couldn't have done that when I was younger. Maybe now today I could have, but young Maggie, no. So, in terms of the correction, I guess I've lived so many years, so I feel like I'm going to fail in this question, but I always present my genuine as who I am. And I make sure when I interview, I again put it out there because I don't want to work for someone that isn't in mesh with what I want to achieve as an LGBTQ person. So I think one, it's putting out your intention of who you are. And as people respond to that is part of the educational process. I've seen different parts of the United States, they never talk about these things. Other parts of the states, they do. So depending on where the colleague and their genuineness of willing to engage in conversation, I think is where how much do you invest in some, and others, you make your point and you move on because it may not be worth the energy because of just the relationship. So I'll pause. Samara.
Yeah, I think to Maggie's last point in brief, remembering that you don't owe information about your identity to anybody. They have to earn that trust. That's one piece of the puzzle. I think I've had to come to understand that about myself. I didn't have to post it everywhere if that's not what I want to do. There are members of friends and family that don't know this about me that now the Eastern ACE community will, because I feel safer in that space to do so. So, know that that's A-okay as you go through the journey. And B, I think if there are circumstances where like, no, I need to say something, not worrying so much about the other person feeling uncomfortable or embarrassed. Like, you deserve to have your pronouns, your lived identity said correctly. It's similar to my name. I feel awkward anytime I tell people it's Samara, like Panera, mascara, or Good Samaritan, not however people have chosen to read it and say it. And I always feel super guilty doing that. They always feel super guilty. It's like, oh, okay. But at the end of the day, it's important to me that they pronounce my name correctly. So I think it's similar. If it's important to you that information be correct, don't hesitate to share that, but know that people also must earn your trust for you to be authentic and share that with them. So if you so choose.
And I laugh because as my mentor and good friend, I butchered her name for like a year. And she was like, Phil, it's Samara Air. And then I kept on now repeating it in my head, Air, like Air Jordan, because I didn't want to offend my good friend. But with that being said, we all had these different experiences coming out. I think I had a mini experience being someone that identifies as ADHD. And I had the good fortune of being able to discuss that with you, Samara, during this year where I was asked to be on a panel about it. I didn't want to. I didn't do it. And because I was viewed as a leader at Mason. And then I did do it, and I felt so empowered. And afterwards, I'm like, okay, my name is Fuller Wilkerson. I have ADHD, so what? It's my superpower. And then it helps me empower others, like my son, or just be comfortable with those conversations. Say, hey, we're special. We have special brains, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I actually lean into it. So can you both discuss the empowering feeling that when you do get validated by certain communities, how you're able to channel that to champion others? Like, so for instance, joining affinity groups at Mason, we have one for neurodiverse individuals. And so I joined that, and it's a space. And then serving on panels, or making sure that there's student groups that support the student groups, go and speak about issues that they may have as neurodiverse future young professionals. So can y'all both discuss that empowering feeling of when you have disclosed and then been able to champion those identities in your various spaces?
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes back to like how do we create that space for others just as we lean into it for ourselves. And so yes, we may feel in some spaces, I'm getting Safe Zone certified training to lead that on our campus. That's a piece of the puzzle for me. I know some have engaged in lavender graduation and been there for that celebration and that presence. But a lot of this happens in one-to-one conversations. A lot of it happens within our teams. And I do think language, as we've talked about throughout this conversation, is very important. Not, using more neutral language until somebody tells you what their preference is or what their life story is about. Having some of those visible markers for safety and conversation. If somebody says they want to talk to you about this, creating that time and space. I mean, that's part of mine and Maggie's experiences. We had a survey happen on our campus community, and it was anonymous and aggregate, but it showed that about a third of the unit that works under Maggie, which is a pretty large group, identifies as part of the queer community. And I was like, Maggie, this is no small thing, because that's not the case for the full university when the data was compared. I said, I think it's because people feel really empowered by you as a visible leader. They know that they will be supported in this way. And so, she was like, thank you. And also, let's have some more time to talk about that. So she created the space, made it a really positive experience for me to tell her more about how I was feeling. And then truly, I think people can ask, what does support look like? Because everyone's desire for that support and what that's going to look like is going to be different. For some people, they may like to say, hey, volunteer for this panel, do this event, et cetera. Some may say, that's not what I'm looking for. I just want to feel supported in my day-to-day life, and have you, call out when people are having microaggressions or other spaces on campus. So, sharing, create that connection, and doing so in a way that's individualized.
Yeah, and I guess I'll wrap, the things that I still see happening, that, we're one of the few groups that are still voted on. Every day, someone else gets to decide my future, whether I'm still married, whether I still get to have health benefit. There's not any other population that gets voted on in terms of having access and equity in a life, right? And this is where I get emotional. So I'm so mad about that. And every day I've tried to make sure that my team knows that, no matter what laws say, if you need to be home with your family, you go. I think the core, Samara will speak, family means the most to me, whether it's you have your own or it's the circles, because those are the things that keep us strong. And work is just a part of our identity, right? The overall identity. So for me, it's talking to staff and saying, what is your spark? I say that to students. I say it to my team of, I need you to engage in professional development opportunities that help you be a better person. So whether that's the personal professional development about identity related, if it's about, learning to move from an introvert to an extrovert and willing to speak, on a national level. Some of the identities I didn't say that I ADHD, yes. First gen, yes. Family of immigrant, yes. So other things that I'm constantly having side eyes to how people talk to me, or what I pay attention to that I want to make sure I'm not doing to another team member. All of that plays in our heads. So I would just say, create an environment as a professional and as a manager, supervisor, leader of future, is creating a space where people can be genuine and that they see you care and that you want to spend time, and it's not all about work.
Absolutely. Thank you Thank you so much. This was absolutely a great conversation. This really warmed my heart today. And it's
I have
cold
a
out.
microwave for you now. Do you know that line?
Yes.
Have you ever heard the microwave? If you come out, here's the microwave for the lesson.
I'm done. But thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Samara, like Panera and Mascara and Good Samaritan, for stopping by our conversation or having the conversation with us today. We greatly and truly appreciate you all. And of course, welcome you to come back again. Hearts, hearts. And thank you to our viewers, our listeners in the future. We are always going to be here for you. You already know. Phil, if you could put up the well, if you can chuck a deuces to our guests, love you all. But if you could put up this stuff. Okay. Oh wait, no. Yeah. So wait. Okay. All right. So yes, just a reminder: we have our Eastern ACE affinity groups and interest groups. If you are interested, all right, please join. All right, very important. We got the conference coming up June 19th to the 21st, 2024, in our beautiful city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. It's always sunny in Eastern ACE and in Philadelphia. All right. And our guests for the remainder of the season. All right. So we got Jill, Sharisa, Tibby, Jermaine, Natalie, all that. All right. I know we run up on time. So thank you so much, you all. Love, peace, deuces. Thank you.